With the national conversation trending towards critical race theory, should it be allowed in the schools, should it be banned from the schools, I thought I'd bring in somebody who can speak to this from an expert level. Joining us now on the Genuine Autoglass studio line is former Columbus NAACP president. She calls herself a black conservative leader, and now she's running for Congress in Ohio's 15th district. Ruth Edmonds, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
It's my absolute pleasure. Now, just looking at your background, I mean, you've been through so much. You did so much to get to where you are in life. Do you believe that critical race theory would have helped at any point along the way?
Critical race theory in and of itself is just that. It's just a theory. And it's also critical. And if I had lived my life based on a theory of criticism, I would not have accomplished what I've been able to accomplish in this life. And so there's no good that will come from a theory that's based on being critical, being negative. It has no end game other than to perpetuate a critical sense of being and thinking.
So being that you're running for office, what are the top three things that are most important to you? Is this one of the things that ranks there with regard to what's going on in the public schools, or are there other things that you want to tackle when you get elected to Congress?
Fair and transparent elections are vitally important to our nation's stability. Border control is absolutely critical to the safety of our nation, and certainly the ability of parents to be able to educate their children in a manner in which is consistent with their faith, values, and principles is important. And it's a place that a member of Congress has a bully pulpit to speak from.
Now, as a black conservative woman and as a former head of the NAACP in your area, what kind of pushback are you getting from the left? Are you getting pushback from the left? Are they being very welcoming of your campaign? What's going on with that?
Well, as an African-American woman, I identify myself primarily as a Christian, more so than I do anything else, because that's what leads, guides, and directs my life. That's my worldview. I have a biblical worldview. That's how I make decisions. And so people in Central Ohio know who I am. They know that I am a Christian first. They know that I have conservative viewpoints. They knew when the membership of the Columbus NAACP knew when they elected me that I was a Republican woman. And it didn't matter to them because they understood that what was most important to me were principles and values of faith, family, and liberty and freedom. And so I don't get phone calls and I don't get pushback. I believe it will probably come at some point during this race, but over the last 30 years that I've been engaged in GOP politics here in Central Ohio, I've never hidden my light under a bushel. And to some degree, sometimes it's even advantageous for a liberal to have a conservative friend when the conservatives are in the majority.
You know, it sounds like the perfect path to bipartisanship. And if you're just joining us, we are talking with Ruth Edmonds, who is a congressional candidate running for Ohio's 15th district. She calls herself a black conservative leader, and she is a former Columbus NAACP president. And, you know, I think you and I have a lot in common because I'm an Orthodox Jew. And when people talk about systemic racism throughout the country, I mean, yes, I've been a victim of anti-Semitism before. I've seen it, but I don't believe that the country is systemically racist. Do you think that America is systemically racist?
I do not believe that America is systemically racist. Just because there has been and there are pockets of racism in America, but the very fiber of the fabric of our country, it is not racist. And I will say this, I grew up in a predominantly African-American community in the inner cities of Baltimore, Maryland. I don't recall when I first saw a Caucasian American, but I will tell you, in my community, I was teased, I was bullied, I was called names because I'm a very dark-skinned African American woman. My hair was short, and it still is. And so I got teased and called all kinds of names. So if I was going to say that because of the way I was treated, that meant that that group of people were inherently racist, I would probably have an opinion that African Americans are predominantly racist, which absolutely is not the case. And so my grandmother taught us that, you treat people in the manner in which you want to be treated, and then you own your stuff, and then you may be better off than someone, but you're never going to be better than someone. So she was giving us the principles and the values and the ethics of a good American and a good Christian. And so that's my lens. And so I don't see that in this country we are the fiber of the fabric of our country is racist. Absolutely not.
In the last 3 or so minutes that we have with Ruth Edmonds, who is running for Congress in Ohio's 15th district, you talked about education. You talked about the border. So let's focus in on the border for a second. How are we going to fix the problems we have going on down there? What's your solution in order to fix that?
Well, under the previous administration, under the Trump administration, there was a plan, and that plan was being engaged, and we needed to continue to build the walls and to secure our borders. That is fundamental to our nation. We must secure the borders. I say we bring back the plan, the America First plan that we had under President Trump's administration, and we make sure that first and foremost, when you get on the airplane, they tell you put your mask on first before you help anybody else. We've got to secure our borders. That's like putting our mask on first. And then we must have immigration when people come into this country legally. So don't get it twisted. I am not against immigration. I am for legal immigration. I am absolutely for securing our borders as well.
In the last minute or so we have with Ruth Edmonds, who is a congressional candidate running for Ohio's 15th district, you mentioned that education is a passion of yours. What do you think it's going to take to really fix our education system? Are you thinking vouchers? Are you thinking charter schools? Are you thinking more money? I mean, how much more money are we going to throw at this thing? What do you think is the path to success to fix the education system in this country?
The path to educational success in this country is to give parents the power to educate their children in the school district and the educational system that best fits their values. So when the money follows the child rather than the brick and the mortar, when the money follows the child and there is competition, that's when we're going to see schools listen to parents. That's when we're going to see public education systems be accountable for how they spend good, earned public dollars, taxpayer dollars. The money must follow the child, not the brick and mortar. That's when you're going to see a change in public education.
I have one last question for you in that regard, and this is something I hit on this show all the time. I think that the GOP, conservatives, libertarians, everybody missed an opportunity with the lockdowns where they kept saying, open the schools, send the kids back, open the public schools, send the kids back, but we don't like the education, we don't like critical race theory, all that. Do you think an opportunity was missed to push vouchers, to push charter schools, to push the school choice that you're talking about with all this going on?
I do think that it was missed. In Ohio, it wasn't missed. There are Christian public policy. The largest Christian public policy organization in Ohio, Center for Christian Virtue, was fighting hard for parents to have access to the dollars, that the dollars will follow the child. Yes, we need school choice, education choice. We need choice for parents. And we can still do that. we still have that opportunity, and I encourage parents across this nation, particularly in Ohio, to continue to push our General Assemblies for public policy that calls for the dollars following the child and not the brick and mortar.
Ruth Edmonds, it's been such a pleasure. If people want to volunteer or donate to your campaign, what's the best way for them to find you online?
Thank you. RuthEdmondsForCongress.com. RuthEdmondsForCongress.com. That is where you can find more about my campaign, where you can get involved, and where you can get updates about what's happening. I really appreciate being on tonight.
My absolute pleasure having you. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.